right, welcome back, everybody. I see a lot of familiar names and faces in the chat again. So welcome to everybody who's new. Welcome back to everybody who's coming back again for another session today. For anyone who doesn't know, my name is Joe Lanzillotta. I manage the Student Entrepreneurship Program for Tangent at Trinity College Dublin. And this is our first steps into the world of live streaming digitally online. We're going through the Techstars Toolkit. It's the Techstars Entrepreneurs Toolkit. Techstars is primarily based in the States, but runs things all around the world, and they have this wonderful online toolkit. So I thought a really good way of bringing some great content out just to start is for myself to go along with a group of you guys to understand some of the best practice in innovation and entrepreneurship. So for today, as you see right at the top, we're going to be doing make progress with goals. We've already done a number of sessions, 9 to be exact. That's why we have session number 10 up at the top, topic number 10, sorry. But yeah, it's like, this is going to be a good one. It's about kind of like actually how to manage your goal setting as you go. The last one was setting key performance indicators, so actually how to set some key performance indicators, but I think this works a bit more broadly, even if you don't have a startup, how to make progress with any sort of goals that you have. So I see a few you guys already being active in the chat. For anybody who's here for the first time, you guys are more than welcome to type into the chat if you have recommendations or things to add. This is meant to be us all kind of learning together. I have seen some of these videos. I haven't seen all of them, so it's a bit of me learning alongside you guys. And I will do my best if you do have any questions to answer them after whatever video we watch. I know today's session, there aren't too many of the videos, so we might finish up a little bit early, but I'll leave that open for questions at the end if you have anything you want to ask myself, or if you have anything based on the video you want to ask. At the end, we will also go through the worksheet that comes after this that you guys can follow up with. If you're looking for the link to this website, you can either look at the URL in the top, or it is in the top of the description of the video. So that's, I think, the last bit of kind of housekeeping to start us off. So without further ado, I will start by just reading the little intro that they have at the top, and then we'll start the trailer. So dreams need to be grounded in reality if your plan is to make them work. To make progress, we need to set and take strategic steps, which requires us to identify objectives and expected key results, and to establish and write goals. So we're trying to establish, write down goals, and then make progress with said goals. Pretty straightforward. I'm not going to talk for much longer before we get into it. What I will say, though, is I hope that everybody's ready to be active in the session, and if you have no other reason to stick around at the end of this session, I will be giving away, as I do in all of these sessions, a free pizza to somebody who hasn't already won one. I know a few of you guys here have already won, but if you haven't won, stick around till the end, and I will be raffling off a spin a fun wheel, and somebody will win a free pizza at the end of the session. So we'll jump right into the trailer. Let's get started. And again, if there are any audio issues, just let me know in the chat and I will do my best to fix them.
I see company after company after company doing the same thing. You have some major milestone you're trying to hit, you navigate well as a group for a while, and then you start corkscrewing. So today is about figuring out how to not do this. A well-stated goal that's effective has two components: the mission component and the outcome component. So that's specific enough, I know what the mission is, but it's ambiguous enough that I can see myself and I can bring my magic into that work. And as a startup, it's dangerous to be on either side of that. The trick early on is most of what you're doing, you'll have no idea if it's valuable or not. So a big piece of potentially your mission is figure out if this works, figure out if this is valuable.
Awesome. So again, this is another one of the sessions, as many of them are, with Zach. Zach does a lot of these sessions. He starts us off with the lean canvas. If you haven't seen that session, it's well worth going through. A really good way of looking at laying out your business model. But today he's helping us through goal setting. So the key things for today, we're going to learn why is goal setting important, what are the two components of goals, what is an effective objective, and what is an effective key result. And as I said, we're going to watch the videos down below, and then at the end we'll go into doing the exercises, which kind of just mirror off of what the videos are going to walk us through. So the first one is why is goal setting important, kind of setting the premise for why we're looking at this today. One can easily mistake motion for progress, when in fact They are not the same thing. This part will take you through how to strike a strong focus so you can go from problem to solution and from hunch to evidence. I love the idea of like making motion without progress, because it's kind of something that I can fall into on occasion, where you end up doing a lot but not getting as much done as you may think that you're doing. So some of these objectives are going to help break us out of that shell. So we'll go right in.
How many Mythbusters fans in the room? Yeah. All right, one of my favorite shows. So bummed that it's not on TV anymore. Anybody remember this episode? So this is where Adam and Jamie are trying to test out human navigation when you can't see anything. So Adam is about to get in the water there, and if you see way out in the distance where the arrow pointing is this big, huge reflective mirror. Adam's goal is to get into the water and swim across there. The trick, though, is his eye goggles are complete blinders. He can't see out of them at all, which just sounds awful to me. I can't imagine swimming in an open body of water and you can't see. I mean, you can't see normally in an open body of water, but even not being able to pop your head up, terrifying. So what he's trying to do is the start there is on the left, and the red dot there is what he's, or the dotted line there is what he's trying to go across, and the goal is the other side. Anybody remember how Adam does? He gets in the water, he's like, oh yeah, this isn't too bad, he's swimming along. Voiceover is like, yeah, it feels good, it feels like I'm on track. Seems like I should be there about now. Boy, I've been swimming for a while. And this is the route that he takes. So he basically just makes a corkscrew. And I see company after company after company doing the same thing. You have some major milestone you're trying to hit, you navigate well as a group for a while, and then you start corkscrewing. So today is about figuring out how to not do this. And the big thing here is I see time and time again, especially in younger startups, making the mistake between motion and progress. Just because you're super duper busy, you think that that's what matters the most. But progress really matters a lot too. So today we're going to be talking about how do you make progress, not just motion. Everything that I'm showing today as examples, because I believe in kind of teaching the concept and then giving you an example and a story, all those stories are from Techstars companies or companies that I've worked with. It's probably, in companies this size, probably in the 300 to 400 now, and in very large companies that are scaling up, it's in the hundreds as well, teaching them how to do these things. Cool thing about it too is once you get good at it at this size, with only minor changes, these skills transfer all the way up to when you're 500, 1,000, 2,000 person company. Because when you're successful, the thing that goes with success is more people, more of these issues that these techniques are really powerful to solve. So how do we make progress? There's one side of a continuum which is no focus whatsoever. It's like chaos. The other side is myopic focus, rigidity around a goal. And as a startup, it's dangerous to be on either side of that. So what we're trying to find is this place in the middle where we have strong focus, but not myopic focus. And that focus enables us to go from to-do items to done items effectively. Get stuff done, which is really important as a startup. It helps us to understand the problems that we're facing, because startups are basically, I call them problem whack-a-mole. If you don't like playing whack-a-mole with problems, either in your market or inside your business, you're playing the wrong sport. So getting good at going from problem to solution is important. And then because so much of what you're doing is based on intuition, and you don't have hard data yet, you have to get good at going from hunch to evidence. And focus and goal setting allows you to do that as well. So we're going to create this progress through focused goal setting.
Cool. So yeah, we're going to be going through focused goal setting. That's kind of the outcome of today. I saw Aviva, you asked in the chat there just about the worksheets at the end. I'll just show you here in the do the exercises. That's what we're going to go to at the end. And at that point, there are things that you kind of work through, you fill out, and then you're actually able to download them at the end. So you have something to kind of take away. Usually it ends up as some sort of canvas. So there will be something to kind of work on and tangibly take away. But I find it's good when we go through the videos first, then you have some understanding and context for when we bring it to the the actual exercises. So yeah, welcome everybody. I see Colin, you put something in there. I think most ERP software system designers rely on their implementation process being like that as an integral part of their bill by the hour business model. I'm not entirely sure I understand the ERP and their business model. If you want to explain that a bit more, that's awesome. I'm interested in how it connects to what we're learning today. So yeah, definitely guys, if you have stuff to add or stuff to share, pop it in the chat there, but we'll keep on going on how to set goals and how to make them work for us. So next part, what are the two components of goals? This video will take you through the two main components of goal setting, objectives, and key results. Cool, we'll dive right in.
So goals have two components. A well-stated goal that's effective has two components: the mission component and the outcome component. Because a lot of what we talk about when we think about getting work done, we think about the output. I feel good about this because I got it done. I shipped it. I did something. Outcome is a little bit different, which is what are the results that we're trying to generate through doing that work. So mission, when we frame a goal as a mission, the mission component is what progress do we want to make? Meaning, what is this outcome we want to get to? The outcome is, how will we know if we are making progress? So one, you can think of it as destination or result. The other one, how do we measure it? And that's where we get objective and key result. So objective is the mission. The key result is the outcome, the measurement of the outcome you want to create. This is commonly referred to as OKRs. They've gotten pretty popular lately. What I'm actually teaching you is a blend between OKRs and about 60 years of lean experience and thinking around how to set strategy from a lean startup mindset. So those two are blended together. Most of you probably think, oh, OKRs, right, Google does that. They're the most famous for this. A lot of people think that it all started with Google. It didn't actually start with Google, it started with Intel. Back in the early 80s is where the first kind of statement of the OKRs came about. And fantastic book, it's held up incredibly well. High Output Management, Andy Grove's book, great read. It's got some great descriptions in there from the early 80s of how Intel was doing OKRs. I actually had the pleasure to work with a team at Intel that was taking their original OKR framework and transforming it into kind of a blend of lean and OKR. And these are powerful tools. Scale down, because you're not Intel, you don't have 5,000 people eventually doing that work. So this is all scaled down to kind of 3 to 30 people.
Okay, cool. So we've learned some of the terms that we're going to be using as we actually get into it. So now what is an effective objective is what we're going to dive into, and how to actually make sure that we're setting the right objective. So this video will help you describe what it is that you want to achieve and the reason you're doing it. You will refine your goals by taking a closer look at the objectives you set. Cool, so it's about kind of creating, looking at, and then refining. It becomes an iterative process, so you don't end up going in circles. Cool, so what is an effective objective?
So effective objectives, again, remember, this is the mission. This is the statement of go take on this challenge. So they describe what you want to achieve, not what you want to do. So it's very common when you're setting objectives to say, let's ship feature X. But then that begs the question, what is feature X going to do for you? What is the outcome of shipping feature X? You know, it's like, oh, well, shipping feature X should allow us to get 30% more retention through the initial sign-up process. Awesome. That's your mission. Not shipping this thing, not getting it done, but shipping it. A good objective, an effective objective, is specific enough to create focus and ambiguous enough to enable autonomy. So this is a check on command and control types of leadership, which, if the commander is the smartest human being in the office, is an effective way to run a company. What I've seen is typically that's not the case. You're hiring smart people, you should, get their wisdom into the mix. So creating focus, you could have an objective which is go make magic with the marketing campaign. That's not specific enough to create focus. And you also don't want to say, run these 2 campaigns exactly this way, because that's too specific to create autonomy. So you may want to say, we want to, thinking about, again, the outcome that we're trying to generate, what is this marketing campaign doing for us? We want to try to enable more improved signups through channel testing of marketing campaigns. So that's specific enough, I know what the mission is, but it's ambiguous enough that I can see myself and I can bring my magic into that work. You may not have a known solution when you set the objective. Especially in early days of a company, this is more likely to be the case than not. Set an objective, which is let's dramatically improve our signups through this specific web channel. You may have no idea how you're going to do that, but that's a very effective mission. So be comfortable with that when you're setting it. A lot of plan-driven, if you've come from plan-driven environments, the only valid plan is a plan that has a known solution at the end of it. Well, in startup land, that's almost never the case. So you want plans that accommodate the fact that you don't know everything you need to know when you start the work. If your objective is a to-do, ask yourself, so that what? This will get at the heart of why are you doing it? What is the outcome you're trying to drive to? Often in engineering teams, I can set an objective which is, complete the sprint. Well, that's kind of a to-do. That you could state that as a to-do item. So the underlying question there is, complete the sprint so that what? What's the advantage? What's the benefit? Anybody that's used to Agile, in a user story, there's that so that what at the end, which is the value description. So when you ask yourself the so that what, get at the value piece of it. The trick early on is most of what you're doing, you'll have no idea if it's valuable or not. So a big piece of potentially your mission is figure out if this works, figure out if this is valuable. And the so that what, you may have to ask yourself a couple of times, so that what? And when you get to the point where you're like, so that what, blank, so that what, that's why we're doing this, then that's an effective objective statement. You want it to be a mission, not a to-do list. So very often you can see these objectives where literally it's almost like a backlog statement. It's just the to-do list. We're very used to working in to-do list environments. This requires you to go one level up and ask yourself, what are these to-dos all lining up to accomplish for our company or for us or for a particular piece of it? So anytime you feel like, oh, this is just a to-do item, if I would write this on my to-do list, I encourage you to go one level up into why you're doing that.
Right, really interesting. So like it's about kind of raising the bar beyond just creating to-do lists. That's kind of an easy way to think about it. I also think it connects to the idea of when you're creating a pitch or any sort of presentation, you want to start with the why. When you're starting to create your to-do list, you're starting with the why. What is it you want to achieve? Why is it that you're setting out this to-do list to begin with? Once you have that, then it's a lot easier to kind of say, okay, here's where we're going. This is the mission. How are we going to get there? And I think it makes it a bit more action focused. So yeah, as I said before, it's a bit of a shorter session in terms of the videos, but I am going to take a little bit of time and go through kind of the exercises afterwards. So this is just the last video. What is an effective key result, which is the output on the other end of you setting your goals? Here, you will identify those results that will help you know whether or not you are making progress. This step will help you measure your progress so that your goals are outcome focused, not task completion focused. Cool. So I was probably going to connect a lot to what he just said there, but we'll jump right in. And again, guys, if you have questions or comments or ideas around this, feel free to pop them into the chat. I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say.
Okay, effective key results. Remember, a key result allows us to measure our progress along our mission. They're outcome focused, not task completion focused. Very often you'll see key results, so if it's ship feature X is the objective, which isn't a great objective. Again, take it one level up, why are you doing it? A key result could be 100% burn down of the stories, or 100% tasks completed. That is a very, very common key result when you first start this process. I got done with 100% of my stuff. Awesome, if you're trying to make motion, but we're trying to make progress here. So again, think about what does getting 100% of that done enable. Think about the mission. Why are we doing this? What is the destination? What's the outcome we're trying to drive toward? And then ask yourself, okay, how do every day, because in this program I encourage you to check in on this every day, Every day, how do we check in on our progress toward the goal we're trying to get toward by the end of this week? They're specific and measurable. So I've seen key results, which is make the customer happy, or customer happiness is the key result. So objective is make customer happy, key result, happy customers. That's not specific enough, and it can also be potentially a challenge to measure. You can have happiness, but I would encourage you to think about mood surveys, other quantitative things, or you can also think, remember yesterday in KPIs we talked about quantitative versus qualitative. There are ways to set key results that are qualitative, meaning we want 7 positive stories to come out of our user base. So that's a blend of those two. The positive is a judgment call. That's the qualitative side of it. So those are perfectly acceptable. Have a known starting value. So we talked about on the objective side, it's okay if you don't know how to complete it. On the key results side though, it's important to stare in the face, can we actually measure this? Because one of the traps you'll often fall into is you'll set a great objective, key result makes total sense, and that's your goal for the week, and you spend 5 days figuring out how in the world are we going to measure this key result. And you put all your effort into the measurement rather than in actually making the progress you're trying to make. So it's beneficial if you can measure it at the beginning. If you can't, then ask yourself, can we defer this key result to next week? And put in our backlog this week, our to-do items, that we want to instrument a little bit of this because we know this objective and key results coming next week. Can be multiplied by 0.7. The intention of these key results are not to sandbag yourself, meaning set a really easy bar that anybody can hit. The goal here, the intention is to set goals that stretch you a little bit. They should be a challenge to get to, which means when you get to 0.7, that means you've set a pretty good goal. So if it's getting 100 signups is your key result, you should be really happy with 70. That's how to think about this. Now the flip side of that, in startup land this isn't as important, but in larger companies this is a huge, huge issue, which is a lot of people think, oh, well, this is just management by objectives. This is an MBO, and I'm going to tie compensation, because that's what we do with MBOs. So when you tie compensation to the achievement of key results, guess what happens? You get, just like you will with your investors on term sheets, you'll get into this negotiation of what the number should be. You want it low, whoever's leading the group wants it high, and then it's this, you're negotiating with each other rather than figuring out how to actually achieve the results you want to achieve. So please don't tie compensation. You can tie parties or fun things, but any time that somebody feels like my bottom line rides on this in the short term. Now the irony of this, especially for startups, is everybody's bottom line rides on this in the long term. But in the short term, you don't want it to ride on this. And you want to help understand how to move your KPIs. Yesterday during the KPI workshop, I talked about how goal setting really fits in with KPIs. KPIs are sort of the long view. Goal setting is how you move that incrementally. So think about your KPIs and think about how those relate to your goal setting. It's important not to have your KPI be your key result. And let me explain why. So remember back to yesterday when we were talking about we've got leading and lagging indicators, we've got generic, specific, behavioral. So let's say that what we're trying to do is, from a KPI standpoint, over a series of goal setting weeks, we want to increase our daily active users. So this is a KPI we're tracking. This is a super important KPI for us as a company. Don't pick daily active users as your key result for goal setting. What you want to do is look in this zone for your key results. Because what you're trying to do is figure out in that Rube Goldberg, that your machine that you're inside of that's called your company, you're trying to figure out what's the link between the KPI that matters the most to us and the other things we can measure that are going to drive change over time of that KPI. So this is really important when you're setting goals to move KPIs. Keep this image in mind. The reality is, when you look at this, you're like, I have no idea what's going to improve daily active users. Awesome. Take your best guess. Take the best guess that you can quickly measure, that you can quickly move forward, set a goal around it, drive it for a week, see what happens. If there's no correlation there, awesome. You learned that there's no correlation between this thing we were just measuring and the KPI we're trying to increase. You want to create an understanding about the link between action and outcome. Again, like the OK Go video yesterday, you're going to knock some bowling pins down, ball's going to roll this way, and you're going to have no idea what gets set off. So this is about learning the linkage, the correlation linkage. Ultimately, you want to get to cause and effect, but don't jump to cause and effect too soon, because initially all you're going to have is correlation. If we do this over here, it seems like this happens over here. And this over here seems like it's part of this over here. Remember, correlation goes both directions, or makes sense in both directions. So you're going to have moments where, yeah, Facebook spend goes up, signups go up. Well, signups went up and Facebook spend went up too. So you're going to have that level of understanding of your business. But that's a really important part of the key results. It's a learning exercise. And it's okay if this feels frustrating. What this is going to do, the first few times you do this, is like, well, this sucks. Because like I set this key result. I don't know if it was the right key result. It didn't move. What's going on? And I'll get into in a second here how you fight through that and get smarter about your business. So again, this isn't just about getting work done. This is about getting smarter about how your business and your market work together. It's ideal if you have a short lag between action and measurable outcome. Net Promoter Score, I'll pick on Net Promoter Score for a second. It's a great measure. It makes for a horrible key result. Anybody that's done a lot of Net Promoter work, you know there's a pretty sizable lag often between interaction with the customer and the Net Promoter Scores going up or down. Especially when you're doing weekly goal setting, it's really super hard to move your NPS week over week. If you slice it by channel, or if you do slice it by cohort, sometimes you can get it, but often people's sentiment takes a long time. So be mindful of how long is that lag.
All right, really interesting. So I think for anybody who wasn't able to be here for yesterday's session with the KPIs, I'd recommend now, if you haven't seen it, that you do go back. It is all uploaded on YouTube, so you can look at it as the KPI session from yesterday. That's where that chart came that he showed at the end, so it'll explain a bit better what he means by leading and lagging KPIs. I'm not going to go into them today because this is just a bit broader than this, but the idea is that your key performance indicators, your KPIs, are your long-term metric that you're aiming for over the long term. You set your goals. But then your short-term goal setting is trying to get key results. So what are your key results that you're looking to use as essentially tests? That's your hypothesis as to how you can move that key performance indicator. And then you're trying to do that as many times as possible to see, once you run a number of tests and you understand, okay, this this short-term goal, when I move that key result, it results in my KPI going the way that I want it to. So more daily active users or whatever it may be. So with that in mind, I'm going to bring us to the worksheet, which is the kind of like follow on to it. It's also at the top here. I'll just show you guys. It's also to do the exercises. As I said, the link to all of this is just in the beginning of the description. So if you did want to look at it afterwards, you're able to go right to there. But do the exercises. I click there. It'll bring us through. So a well-stated goal. Sometimes entrepreneurs can confuse motion with progress. We need a well-stated goal that the team can get behind, that will push us. Objectives set us in a mission, and key results help us measure our progress. That's the beginning, middle, and end of this session is essentially setting a goal, looking at the results, measuring your progress, and then adapting beyond that. So this exercise kind of brings you through that. So what you start is, what is your objective? What is it that you want to do? But importantly, it's what is it that you want to achieve? It's not, I would like to write down 5 things. It's why would you like to write down 5 things? Like, what is the outcome of that? I write down 5 things. I will more effectively do my shopping when I have a list, something like that. And then you write down your expected key results. So this is, what is the outcome that you're looking to have from what it is that you're doing? So essentially, if you write down your objective, what is the outcome that's going to come from that? That is what you're looking to achieve. Pretty straightforward so far. Explain why it is important to your business. This is the key thing. So this is where you make sure that it actually does connect to what you want to achieve. Why does that matter? So it's not just here's what I want to do, here's why I want to do it, but why does that actually have a meaningful impact on your business? And that could be the KPI. So as I talked about, the long term is your key performance indicators. I want to do this because I think it will have this outcome, and that outcome will have an impact on my long-term key performance indicator. That's what you're aiming for. So once you've done those things, you go through, put your objective and your expected key results together in one sentence. The idea is that you're going to make essentially a SMART objective. For anybody who hasn't heard of SMART objectives before, it's specific, measurable, achievable/realistic, relevant, and time-based. So, for example, improve our sales pipeline as measured by a 15% increase in our weekly demo requests. That would be an example. So you can put in your we will do this as measured by this. So what is the measurement of your success? Then once you've done that, you try to achieve your goal. At the end of the week, you are looking at your key results, so the outcome key results. So this is kind of last week's results and how you would go through them. Last week you had an objective. You had an expected key result, what you thought, maybe that 15% increase. You then look at what the actual result was, so what was the outcome that happened, and then what's the gaps between those two. So say you wanted a 15% increase, but you only got a 10, or you had a decrease. It went horribly. That's where you can actually make meaningful change in your goals and in your objectives by looking at how can we what is the learning from that? So you take out your learnings. What did I learn? Oh, I learned that this does not result in that much change. It only results in this much change. And then the advice for next week could be, okay, I know this. Let's test something else. Or making a 10% change is what I should project for the next week. And it just makes you a bit more accurate as you start to go on and on and on and iterate this process. Then this is what kind of a goal-setting canvas might look like. So here's an example of it. You write in your objective right at the top, the expected results, the actual results, and the gap. And before you get to the gap, you're going to be putting down at the bottom your task and the output priority, who's responsible for it. So if you're working in a team, this can be a way of listing out what needs to get done to achieve the expected results. And then finally, you can look at the actual results at the end. Once you've looked at the actual, and putting in the due dates, of course. Once you look at the actual results, then you can analyze the gap and look at how you might project that for next week. In one of the other sessions, we were looking at setting weekly meetings and how you might, within those structured meetings, looking at these and reviewing these key objectives could be an essential way to move your business forward in a way that makes sure you're actually looking at the results and how they achieve what your business is trying to do versus just looking at everybody got something done. I know that there's a tendency in meetings for everybody to say everything they did, when in reality, all you need to know is, was the objective achieved and did it help you move towards your goal? And if you can move in that direction with this as a template, it can be really helpful. I'm just seeing column, you said SQR is essential, learn from hard experience. Yeah, a lot of the best things are learned from actually trying. And likewise, Colin, a long time ago, everybody's learned. So again, this is something that you learn as you do. So when you're trying to actually measure your success and make sure that you're doing something and checking in on your progress, it's hugely important. But again, it's going to be something that you learn by doing. So what I might recommend to everybody who's here is following this session. If you go to the goal setting, go to the Techstars Toolkit. When you go to the Techstars Toolkit, go to the goal setting thing. I'll show you exactly how to do it. When you go to the Techstars Toolkit link in the bottom, it's going to bring you to this screen that has all of the different sessions that we did. Make progress with your goals. That's the one that we did today. So you just click there. When you go in, then you go right over to do the exercises. Go down, fill out one of these canvases for yourself. So go down, fill out, complete the goal setting canvas for yourself with some of the tasks and output priorities. Even if it's just you, make sure you're responsible for everything. And then maybe in the next day or in the next week, whatever timeline you set for yourself, see how it works for you when you check back in and see if this is something that you can iterate on. Because the idea is that this is a basic template. You can move this in the direction of how it works for yourself. I also think that this connects really well to the other session we did the other day, which was I'm just going to show you the exact title, Get More Done. Get More Done was the session. So for anybody who hasn't seen it, if you go into Get More Done, this is a really good session for how to get yourself organized and manage tasks. When you're creating tasks, how they might feed into your goal setting, I think is really